March 17, 1967. Phuoc Tuy Province, South Vietnam. Warrant Officer 2nd Class, Jim Dinger. Bell of the Australian Special Air Service Regiment lay motionless in the thick kunai grass, 800 meters from a suspected Viet Cong assembly area. The heat was suffocating, 110 degrees Fahrenheit with humidity that made every breath feel like drowning. Beside him, his spotter tracked movement through binoculars while Bell's hands rested on something that would have gotten him court-martialed in any conventional army. It wasn't the standard issue L1A1 SLR that every other Australian soldier carried. It wasn't even a purpose-built military sniper rifle like the Americans used. It was a Parker Hale Model 82, a civilian hunting rifle you could buy in any gun shop in Sydney. Modified, sure. But fundamentally, a rifle designed for shooting kangaroos and wild boar in the Australian Outback. The American advisor attached to the SAS patrol had nearly laughed when he first saw it 3 days earlier. Quote one, he'd asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Bell had simply smiled and said nothing. He'd learned that Americans didn't understand until they saw it work. Through his scope, civilian Pekar Berlin 4X, not military issue either, Bell watched a figure emerge from the tree line. 847 meters. Wind slight left to right. Temperature hot. Ammunition would run fast. He made the calculations automatically. Muscle memory from thousands of rounds downrange. The VC fighter paused, scanning the jungle. Bell's finger tightened on the trigger. What the American advisor didn't know, what nobody outside the Australian SAS understood, was that these deer rifles were about to revolutionize long-range combat in Vietnam. While conventional forces fired thousands of rounds to suppress an advance, a handful of Australian shooters with commercial hunting rifles were achieving kill ratios that military planners would dismiss as impossible. The Viet Cong were about to learn what Australian hunters had known for decades. When you're hunting dangerous game in unforgiving terrain, you don't need military bureaucracy. You need a rifle that shoots straight every single time. When the Australian Army Training Team Vietnam, AATTV, first arrived in 1962, followed by the SAS squadrons in 1966, American military observers viewed their equipment choices with barely concealed skepticism. The U.S. military had invested millions in developing specialized sniper systems. The Marine Corps had their Winchester Model 70s and .3006. Various units fielded modified M14s with heavy barrels and precision stocks. The idea that combat snipers would choose commercial hunting rifles seemed amateurish at best, dangerously naive at worst. They showed up with rifles you could order from a Brownell's catalog, recalled Marine Corps sniper instructor Staff Sergeant Robert Russell, who observed Australian training exercises in 1967. I remember thinking, these guys are going to get themselves killed. We had purpose-built systems. They had what looked like somebody's elk rifle with a scope slapped on it. The conventional wisdom was unambiguous. Military rifles for military work. The U.S. Army's marksmanship doctrine emphasized volume of fire, suppression, and standardization. Sniper programs focused on modified service rifles. The logic seemed sound. Use proven military actions, military triggers, military everything. Control the variables. Maintain supply chains. Lieutenant Colonel Frank Bourne, who helped establish Australian sniper doctrine in Vietnam, understood the American perspective perfectly. Quote 4, he said. Quote 5. But the Australians weren't being reckless. They were being practical. The SAS had a fundamentally different approach to warfare in Vietnam. While American units conducted large-scale operations, the Australians ran small patrols, 4 to 6 men disappearing into the jungle for weeks. They weren't trying to hold territory or conduct sweeps. They were hunting. And Australian soldiers, many recruited from rural backgrounds, knew exactly what kind of rifle you needed for hunting in harsh conditions. Warrant Officer Bob Kearney, one of the early SAS snipers, explained the thinking. Quote, 6. The Americans expected the Australians would request standard military sniper systems. Instead, the SAS went shopping. Parker Hale Model 80s-2s, Remington 700s, Winchester Model 70s, rifles that serious hunters worldwide trusted with their lives. Quote 7, recalled Major Peter Daly. Quote, By early 1967, American military observers were watching with professional curiosity mixed with doubt. The VC were about to provide the ultimate field test of whether hunting rifles belonged in a war zone. The Australian approach to precision shooting didn't emerge from military labs. It came from a national culture built on long-range shooting. Australia in the 1950s and 60s was still a frontier country. Young men learned to shoot the way American kids learned to drive. It was a survival skill. Kangaroo culling, wild pig management, all required rifles that could deliver accurate fire at extended ranges in brutal conditions. The Australian Outback taught shooters that a rifle had to work perfectly, every time, because the next shot might not come. This wasn't target shooting. This was practical marksmanship under stress. Quote 9, recalled Warrant Officer Bell. Quote 10. When the Australian SAS regiment formed in 1957, this culture became foundational doctrine. Unlike conventional infantry that emphasized volume of fire, the SAS focused on individual technical excellence. Reconnaissance patrols couldn't rely on artillery support. They needed soldiers who could engage targets with surgical precision. The selection course reflected this. Candidates who passed the physical torture still had to demonstrate expert marksmanship, not parade ground shooting, but practical field shooting under fatigue at unknown distances. The shooting tests weren't about putting rounds in a bullseye, explained Captain Peter Daly. We'd march you for 20 kilometers, then tell you to engage a target at 600 meters. Unknown distance. You had to range it yourself, compensate for wind yourself. That's real-world shooting. As Australian involvement in Vietnam escalated, the SAS began adapting their equipment. The standard issue L1A1 self-loading rifle was an excellent battle rifle, reliable, hard-hitting. But for snipers who needed to eliminate specific targets at extended ranges and then disappear, the L1A1 had limitations. It was semi-automatic, which meant moving parts and complexity. It was designed for volume of fire, not ultimate precision. And it was chambered in military spec 7.62 NATO. Good accuracy, but not match grade. Warrant Officer Kearney remembers the moment the hunting rifle solution crystallized. We were at Nui Dat, and a couple of the blokes had brought their personal rifles from home. Custom sporting rifles. Someone, I think it was Dinger Bell, made a joke about using his Parker Hale on patrol instead of the SLR. We all laughed. Then we stopped laughing and started thinking. The logic was compelling. Commercial sporting rifles were engineered to standards military rifles couldn't match. Free-floating barrels for consistent accuracy. Match-grade chambers. Triggers measured in ounces, not pounds. And most importantly, they were designed to deliver sub-minute of angle, MOA accuracy, meaning every shot would land within a 1-inch circle at 100 yards. Military rifles might shoot 2 to 3 MOA. Quote 14. Kearney explained. Quote 15. By late 1966, several SAS snipers proposed using commercial rifles. The initial response was skepticism. But the SAS commander, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Bourne, was a pragmatist. Quote 16, he said. They set up a comparison test. Standard L1A1 with military ammo versus commercial bolt actions with match ammo. The hunting rifles won decisively. Authorization came through in December 1966. Australian SAS snipers could purchase approved commercial rifles at government expense. Parker Hale Model 82s, Remington 700s, Winchester Model 70s. The modifications were minimal. Leopold or Pekar scopes, heavy-duty slings, fiberglass stocks. But fundamentally, these were hunting rifles adapted for war. American observers remained skeptical. Quote 17 recalled Captain James Morton, U.S. Army advisor. Quote 18. The bullets were about to fly. June 6, 1967, Operation Canberra. Sergeant Bob Kearney's patrol had been in the wire for 4 days, tracking a VC battalion headquarters. They found it, a complex of bunkers with command personnel moving between structures. Kearney lay in a hide site 680 meters away. His Parker Hale trained on a clearing where officers congregated. The heat was murderous. Kearney had been in position for 3 hours. Through the Pekar 4X scope, he watched 5 men emerge. One wore North Vietnamese Army insignia, a regular officer, the primary target. Wind shifted, his spotter whispered. 10 kilometers per hour, left to right. Kearney made the adjustments. At 680 meters, that wind would push a bullet 8 inches right. He compensated, settling the crosshairs on the officer's chest. The officer stopped to speak. Kearney exhaled slowly, held the empty space at the bottom of his breath, and pressed the trigger. The Parker Hale barked once. Through the scope, Kearney saw the officer collapse, struck center mass. Before the echo had faded, the patrol was moving. Extract and evade. Quote, 21. Kearney recalled. Quote, 22. The incident wasn't unique. Throughout mid-1967, Australian patrols reported confirmed kills at ranges exceeding normal combat distances. July 24, 1967. Operation Ingham. Warrant Officer Dinger Bell identified an enemy machine gun position from muzzle flashes. 650 meters away, concealed in rubber trees. Using his Remington 700, Bell engaged. First round struck the gunner. Second round, 8 seconds later, hit the assistant gunner. Third shot, 12 seconds after that, struck the squad leader. 3 rounds fired, 3 confirmed kills. The machine gun went silent. Captain David Wilson watched through binoculars. I thought I was seeing things. 3 shots at 650 meters in combat conditions? That's not supposed to be possible. But it was happening. August 15, 1967. A combined Australian-US patrol encountered a VC patrol. The Americans prepared to engage with M14s. Australian Sniper Corporal Terry O'Farrell had a different plan. Using a Winchester Model 70, he engaged 6 fighters at ranges between 400 and 550 meters. 6 shots fired in 90 seconds, 4 confirmed kills, 2 probable hits. The remaining VC fled. The American team leader, Master Sergeant Raymond Price, was stunned. Quote, 24, he said. Quote, 25. Price filed a report emphasizing the effectiveness of the Australian method. It reached Major General William Pearse, who requested a formal briefing. September 1967. Lieutenant Colonel Bourne presented the Australian approach to skeptical American officers. He brought data. Australian SAS snipers were achieving a confirmed kill ratio of approximately 1.3 rounds expended per confirmed enemy KIA. American programs were running closer to 1.9. Conventional units expended thousands. Bourne explained. A Marine colonel objected. Bourne's response was blunt. Our snipers don't get into firefights. They take the shot and disappear. If they need rapid fire, they've already failed their mission. The briefing sparked debate. The Vietnamese perspective provided another dimension of proof. A recovered VC intelligence report from October 1967 warned, Australian long-range shooters present extreme danger. Their rifles are different. Sound is sharper, like a single crack. 1 shot, 1 death, then they disappear. Officers are primary targets. The VC had identified the threat. Officers stopped congregating. Radio operators became paranoid. Any position within 800 meters of Australian forces became a potential kill zone. They were terrified of our snipers, recalled Sergeant Major Jack Hill. Not because of volume of fire, but because of certainty. By late 1967, the deer rifle approach had proven itself. American units began requesting Australian snipers. Marine Corps sniper schools started examining bolt-action commercial rifles. The hunting rifles had won. As operations expanded, the equipment evolved. The tropical humidity caused traditional wood stocks to swell and warp. By mid-1968, most Australian snipers transitioned to fiberglass stocks that maintained stability in any weather. Scope selection standardized around Paycar 4X and Leupold 6X. Moderate magnification with superior optics proved better than high-power scopes in the jungle. Ammunition became critical. Supply of commercial match ammo was problematic, so the Australian Army developed a hybrid load. Match 308 Special, military cases with match-grade bullets and powder. The match ammo was the real game-changer, explained Sergeant Major Hill. You could have the most accurate rifle, but if you're feeding it garbage, you're wasting time. Range estimation training intensified. While Americans relied on gadgets, Australians taught practical estimation. The Americans loved their laser range finders, recalled Captain Daly. We taught our blokes to look at a man next to a palm tree and know the distance within 5%. No batteries required. The enemy adapted too. VC commanders implemented strict protocols. No more than 2 people meeting in open areas. Deliberate bait, positioning a single soldier in the open and saturating likely sniper spots with mortars when a shot was fired. Australian snipers had to become more selective. By 68, you had to ask yourself, is this guy bait? Explained Bell. The U.S. Marine Corps, which had maintained sniper programs, began incorporating Australian lessons. They experimented with Remington 700s and found they outperformed M14 systems. By 1969, the Marines adopted the Remington 700 as the M40 sniper rifle. The design was almost identical to the rifles Australians had used since 1966. The Australians had it figured out from day one, admitted Captain Thomas Williams, who helped develop the M40. We spent 2 years essentially reverse engineering what they'd done with off-the-shelf hunting rifles and common sense. By 1969, the psychological impact was strategic. Captured documents rated Australian snipers in their own category of threat. We calculated that each effective sniper was tying down roughly a company-sized enemy element through psychological impact alone, explained Captain David Wilson. The period from mid-1968 through 1970 represented the apex. Operation Ivanhoe, 1969. 12 Australian snipers recorded 96 confirmed kills with 127 rounds, a 75% hit rate. Warrant Officer Bell recorded 7 confirmed kills over 4 days with 7 rounds fired. Ranges between 550 and 790 meters. From 1966 to 1971, Australian snipers accumulated statistics that redefined precision fire. Confirmed kill ratio, approximately 1.04 rounds per kill. Average range, 487 meters. Australian sniper casualties from counterfire, 0. The shoot-and-move doctrine enabled by bolt-action rifles proved tactically sound. A PAVN officer captured in 1970 said, "We called them ghost shooters. 1 shot, then nothing. American snipers we could sometimes locate. Australians disappeared like smoke." By 1970, the approach influenced Allied doctrine. New Zealand adopted identical equipment. The U.S. Marine Corps M40 became the foundation for American sniper rifles still in service today. A 1970 study revealed the cost-effectiveness. 1 confirmed kill by conventional infantry cost, approximately $52,000. By Australian sniper, 180. Warrant Officer Dinger Bell's final tour statistics epitomize the methodology. 53 confirmed kills, 56 rounds expended. His primary rifle, a Parker Hale Model 82, cost $287 Australian dollars. American rifles in development cost thousands. When Australian forces withdrew in 1972, they left a legacy that transformed sniper doctrine. Modern military snipers worldwide use bolt-action rifles optimized for accuracy, not volume of fire. The exact philosophy Australian shooters brought to Vietnam. Quote 43. Reflected Lieutenant Colonel Bourne. Quote 44-4. March 17, 1967. Warrant Officer Bell's shot struck precisely where he'd aimed, 847 meters away. The PAVN officer collapsed, killed instantly by a bullet from a rifle designed for shooting kangaroos. As the patrol extracted, an American advisor could only shake his head. Quote 45, he muttered. Quote 46. It wasn't a deer rifle. It was the right tool used by the right people at the right time. The fact that you could buy the same rifle at a sporting goods store just proved that sometimes the military doesn't have a monopoly on excellence. The Viet Cong and NVA learned that lesson the hard way, 1 shot at a time.